Hey, this is Claudia from Sew Loka, here with a new episode of Skills Pay Bills. New season, new episode, great stories, amazing conversation with my mans. It's gonna be a good one. You gotta listen in, or else you're missing out.
But with that said, you know, we did have these last couple months have been filled with a lot of crazy shit, just a lot of good shit, a lot of things that keep the momentum for Sew Loka going, and one of those was the Definitely Denim show. We had an awesome show.
Yeah.
Super cool show. Out of the box show. Everyone killed it. Everyone killed it, from the artists to the live performers. And did you want to maybe say a couple words about it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every event we obviously, get better at like the organizing and like, the managing and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it was, I feel like that was like such a fun time, such a great event. And like, especially because this time we gave people these denim jackets for them to like really like work outside of like their medium. And I feel like so many people did such a great job. There was a few pieces that did sell, which is really good, but it's always awesome to basically be able to have like something that people could get challenged with, because painting on fabric is really difficult. It's not just one of those things where it's like you just kind of paint on there and so it's like those kind of things. It's great to basically have the artist trust your vision in knowing that this is going to be something that they've never done before, but they're willing to just try it and create something really cool for the show. And it was a lot of really cool jackets, such a great turnout.
And it led to our next event at the Wonder.
Yeah.
Because basically the Wonder Museum, which basically just opened up in the Gaslamp San Diego in January. They have a couple of other museums in Seattle, Chicago. They're about to open one in Boston, but they have one here in San Diego.
Yeah.
And they actually saw the Definitely Denim show.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy shit, this would look so cool inside of Wonder and everything like that. And boom, within a few weeks, we had this next event at Wonder that we just did, which was like a secondhand style, Sew Loka Takeover for National Thrift Store Day.
Yeah.
And it was just basically getting to, for 4 hours on a Thursday night, just getting to take over the Wonder Museum.
Yeah. Which was a lot of fun.
Lot of fun.
It's like, obviously, like anyone kind of like looking at it, everything's perspective, right? So you could basically be like, oh my God, it's only for 4 hours. You could really take it as a challenge and basically be like, it's only for 4 hours. So you have to make an experience out of everything that you set up. Everything has to be very intentional. And so it was like a great challenge to basically, just really like time manage yourself like that whole entire day and just kind of like go into it and just, also have like the idea that if something doesn't get done, it's not the end of the world and we move on and it's fine, but there are like key factors that need to get done that make it such a great experience. And there's like priorities and like low priority kind of projects. So it was great. It's the experience of moving a lot of things over to like a location for 4 hours is obviously
No, we moved basically the whole sewing studio, right?
Yeah.
So tell people about that.
So we had the idea of basically one of the rooms in the museum is basically it's like a theater room. So all the walls are projected, so you could project whatever you want on these walls. And we decided that when you walk in, that the whole entire studio would be projected in those walls. So as soon as you walk in, you would feel like you're in our sewing studio. And so they scanned the sewing studio, and they scanned the whole entire thing. They did a whole 360 of what the sewing studio looks like, and they projected it on these walls, and they had like these pictures of like things that we've done and like the studio and all that kind of stuff that were like free floating in on the walls. But it was like such a cool experience because for me, like the sewing studio is like such a special place for me because it's like it's where there's a lot of emotion being put into like work, and it's where I create, so it's like it is a very sacred space for me. So being able to like see it and share it with people, is a really a nice feeling.
So for the Wonder Immersive Theater,
Mm-hmm.
they gave us the option to put anything in there.
Yeah.
Right? So you could basically make that theater into whatever you wanted to make it into.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose the sewing studio?
Well, it was like a Sew Loka takeover, right? And I think I really do feel that there isn't a lot of like working studios like that. Like you don't have the and this is how I feel about our like space and the sewing studio and everything like that. You could walk into different kind of like creative spaces, you know, little areas where people are like working and all that kind of stuff. But it's like it's very rare for you to see like a space where things are being sewn there. You know, all the fabric is out. Like I've never seen that before.
It's more common to see like an artist studio.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a painter studio.
Yeah, yeah.
But a sewing studio is something different.
Yeah, and especially when like you're you come in through like the retail section, and then you're basically in the space where the things that are in the retail section are actually being made.
And usually during like store hours and everything on the weekend, people come into the store, but they mostly chill in the retail section. They
Yeah.
kind of peer over into the sewing studio, but never really do get to kind of walk back there.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
this during Wonder was an opportunity to kind of walk around in the back area of the sewing studio, and not only walk around, but we had fabrics out, we had books
Yeah.
out, we had, you know, all these patterns out where we encourage people to rifle through them,
Yeah.
touch them, feel the different textures of the fabric.
Yeah.
You know, here's our ironing board with the, you know, the ironing on it, and just all like little tailoring notes. When
Yeah.
people would come in, you'd write little notes about them, and it was all there for kind of people to see and just get
Yeah.
immersed within.
We also took the chess tables.
Yes.
Because chess is like a big thing of like the studio, you know? So it's like we took all those kind of things. There was even like specific plants that you found in like our sewing studio that they were also there. So all those kind of little things, like we want you to be able to experience, because it's not just like my sewing studio, but like sewing and like a studio like that, it's so nostalgic to so many people, because everyone has a connection to like their someone in their life that is older that like used to sew, you know. So then there's that feeling of like, oh, this reminds me of, you know, my grandma and or my mom, and it becomes very comforting for people. And so that kind of experience is always good, because if you could correlate the one thing that you love, that your space is based off, which is sewing, to like a nostalgic warm feeling in someone's mind, like we're
That's
golden.
a great feeling. Yeah, that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And Ainara from
Yeah.
Muksu Creations, she was live sewing in the sewing studio. When people
Yeah.
walked in, she was kind of working on her projects and everything, which also added to it. That was freaking awesome. She did an amazing job.
She did, yeah.
And then we had Michael, our friend Michael, who built us a life-size embroidery loom. I'm talking about a huge embroidery loom that he built from scratch.
I think it's like 4 feet by 6 feet tall, and so it's pretty massive.
And people,
Yeah.
multiple people can embroider at the same time. So you had couples coming up and kind of embroidering at the same time, as opposed to using like the smaller embroidery hoops.
Yeah.
So it's just, that was a really cool installation that we could actually use going forward for our
Yeah.
embroidery nights and stuff like that. But yeah, that whole sewing studio was totally immersive, and like it blew my mind, and it was like definitely one of the highlights for me of the whole Wonder Takeover. Was like,
Yeah.
wow, when are we gonna get the chance to do that again? You know, have a full immersive theater and get to recreate our sewing studio in another space outside of our space. To me, it was like, I didn't even document any of that. You know, I'm always got my iPhone out. I'm always fucking thing. But that night I was just really, really taking it in, because I was like, holy shit, this, who knows when this is going to happen again. So I was
Yeah.
just chilling in there. They allowed us to create a playlist for the room, you know, so we put a lot of our favorite songs on there, and just sitting in there and listening to that, watching people play chess and embroider and sew and just go through all the books and all this stuff was definitely an experience that I will never forget.
That's
so I'm
awesome.
so grateful for this Wonder Takeover, but I'm also grateful for the things that we have in the future
Yeah.
as well.
I also want to, because it's like, I feel like, you know, it's also important to talk about how we actually got that opportunity. And, you know, because it's like a lot of people are always kind of like curious, right? Because it's like we own this business, and we're basically documenting like these experiences that we have, people that we meet along the way, and all that kind of stuff. And there is a lot of people that are very curious as to how we actually got this opportunity, how we get opportunities. And so,
Can I say it?
yeah, go for it.
Networking.
Well, I mean, like, yes, but it's so, I think, yes, it is networking.
I think it boils down to networking.
Yeah, it's all about like networking and like obviously having like really good, like interactions with people and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of like keeping that momentum going, of like we're constantly doing things, all that kind of stuff. And so we're not like stagnant in that kind of way where, we're just not doing things, but
Exactly. Yeah. Whenever we're doing stuff, it's almost like good things happen to us because we're not waiting for anybody to co-sign us or to do this. We're doing our own thing, and then people come along and be like, oh, I want to be a part of that too.
Exactly. Well, that's a really good kind of, little segue of what I'm talking about, because it is one of those things where it's like, creating your own lane, right? Like that has been like one of the biggest things, because it's like, I feel like we really got into like events and doing all of that because, there, I feel, my whole totally like feeling is that sewing isn't really like, people don't see it as like, at least, in my surroundings, I guess, or whatever. It's like people don't really like see sewing as like this art.
No, they don't. They shit on it all the time.
Yeah.
Believe me.
And so for me, like, I know how hard like it is to like create things, to put like everything is so intentional with the design that when we create, and this fabric symbolizes this fabric symbolizes that, like we're so intentional with those kind of things that it's like even the process of it is like art. And so we wanted to basically be like, hey, you know what, like if what we do isn't up to par in like other like circles and stuff like that, we'll just create our own lane.
Exactly.
We'll just create our own lane. And it's like, that's what we did. We created our own lane, and we were like, hey, who are these people that like are our friends that we also feel that like we should, freaking basically like showcase, and basically be like, these are also amazing talented artists that we also respect, and and we want to also showcase their work. And I feel like that's how it all like really started to kind of come together.
Well, out of necessity, because we love art shows, we love, consider ourselves artists and everything, but other people didn't.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like nobody really considered sewing or what you were doing, anything like that, any kind of real art where they would be like, oh, I'm going to invite Sew Loka to an art show, or she's going to be a part of this. What's her interpretation of it?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, because sewing gets shit on. They're like, oh, sewing is this invaluable skill that you can just export, or you can just basically somebody else would do it for way cheaper, so why is it a valuable skill?
Yeah.
And it was like, by you doing it every day, you see how valuable it is. We saw, oh my god, this is fucking hard, not everybody can do it, and there is an art to it.
Yeah.
So then we created the shows around it.
Yeah.
Basically out of necessity. And it was like, okay, like you said, nobody else is inviting us to these art shows. Let's create our own art show. Let's create our own fucking lane.
Yeah, because it's like, for me, obviously, like, we want to change the narrative of what sewing is, right? We want to change to where it's like everyone wears clothes, but we don't respect where the clothes comes from or anything like that. And so we want to change that narrative of like, if you sat down there and try to create the clothes that you're wearing right now, it's very difficult. And it's a very skilled thing, but we don't treat it like that.
No, because those same people, they don't even know what it's like to create the clothes.
Exactly.
They
so
they poo-poo on it.
We're here changing that narrative and basically being like, hey, everything has like intention, and everything is a very like, especially when we create something that is like one of one, there's so much intention in every single little piece. And so for me, like, that was like one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, because it's like, we're so intentional with everything, events, fabric, all that kind of stuff. And we really wanted to like, just kind of like talk a little bit about how we got to the point of like events. Well, we're about to have like a year of like events.
Well, the secret is, for anybody out there wanting to do events, it's like you have to celebrate yourself first. You have to fucking value what you're doing. You have to value it more than anybody else does, to the point where you do these events around it, and then other people see the value too, but you have to see it first. You have to promote yourself first. Sewing is life, all this stuff, an art show dedicated to the sewing machine. We did that for ourselves first and made fucking sewing is as art and all this stuff. We really, really highly focused on that because of the fact that nobody else was. Yeah. And it's like, we had to love ourselves first. We had to appreciate ourselves first. We had to put ourselves on a pedestal before anybody else did. Because I promise you, nobody else does, and nobody else was going to do that for us. Yeah. So anybody else, how do you do this? How do you do this? Do it for yourself first. Do it for yourself first. Do it well. Care deeply about it, and then other people will care as well because they see you caring. But it does not the other way around. You have to care first.
No, for sure, for sure. And I think that was like, that's always been one of the things where because people ask us like, how do I get involved in like these art shows, and how do you, all that kind of stuff. And it's basically like, we don't do like a call out or anything like that. It's like, it's invite only. And we invite people that have been doing things already, that like, they show up when they're supposed to show up. They like, because we have like a whole team, and it's about really like respecting the whole entire team and their time and their effort and all that kind of stuff. Because it takes a lot of planning, and it takes a lot of moving parts to throw like a really good event where artists are actually benefiting from that event, where it's like they get to sell their work, and there's a bunch of different platforms that are sharing that kind of work for them. So
and there are artists out there that are extremely communicative. They communicate really well. Basically, they turn in their stuff ahead of time, turn in their pieces ahead of time. They promote it on social media. They're just very grateful and everything like that. And those are the artists that we gravitate towards, because this is a lot of planning. It's all so many moving parts. So when you have somebody on their end of it that also has their shit together, and you don't have to worry, that makes the train move even faster.
Yeah. Because we ain't fucking around.
No, we got no time to fuck around. No time to fuck around.
Yeah, and plus it's like, that we're gravitating towards people that are also like taking their careers seriously. Because it's like, seriously, it's like we've all heard about people complaining, struggling artists, starving artists, this and that. And it's like, we could all be really successful. All of us be really successful if we actually put time and effort into something. Because it's like, with nowadays, like with the technology of like Instagram, social media, all that kind of stuff, it's like you could really like speak to a bunch of freaking people, in like a few minutes, and like really tell them what you have going on, or talk about your business, or do this or do that. And it's like, and that's how we've had a lot of opportunities too. So it is about, really just delving into like, like the networking, the social media stuff, all that kind of stuff plays like such a huge role in like really like cross promoting everything and having a successful event.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so since then we've done Sewing is Life. We did Community Over Competition.
Yeah.
Definitely Denim. The Wonder Takeover.
Yep.
What's next?
So, like for another event?
Yeah. So what's our next event? Like, what is the next thing that we're planning?
So I think the next thing that we're planning is we want to have like an actual fashion show. And so it's going to be obviously like, I don't want to like have like something like traditional. I want to do something a little bit more different. Think outside of the box with it a little bit, but I do want to basically, have a fashion show. And I think that like, it's important for me to kind of share why I would want to go into like a more non-traditional route.
Yeah.
Is because, I don't like depending on people. It's really scary for me to depend on people. Like, I think that with the events and everything like that, one of the things that I have learned is that you have to rely on people to like get more things done and all that. And so it's about relying it's about relying on people that will actually come through for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my whole life has been based on relying on people that never would come through for me. So it's like, this is new, this is scary, but it's like, it is good, and so I feel like one of the things that like makes me really nervous about like a fashion show is having to depend on people to show up to wear the clothes. It almost creates like a pit in your stomach where you're like, you have to you have to believe that they will show up. And it's just it's a different little thing for me and you.
Yeah.
But it is a fear. It is a fear of mine. So it's like, that's where it's like these little learning things and these things that have happened with events and stuff like that. It obviously, you're like, wow, this is awesome, because it's like, you are building that like trust, and people are working together, and it's like it is a great team. So it's like everything like like flows really well, but it's like there is still that fear. And so it's like, I feel like every event that like obviously ends up happening, like you kind of lose a little bit more of that fear. And it's like, and it's just like a trust muscle, you're building that trust muscle to basically be like, people, this is gonna work this way.
Yeah, definitely.
you know
Especially, the more times you do it with a group of people and they come
yeah,
through, hopefully
yeah,
that builds trust.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
And then
Yeah,
you just have to make sure that we're surrounding ourselves with the right people
yeah,
that come through.
yes, yes,
And I think that's the key to it. And we just keep doing it more and more and more,
yeah,
and everyone kind of gets in their zone, and
yeah,
it feels effortless after a while.
yeah.
Because the events are important.
No, for sure. Yeah,
They're important to us, they're important to the brand, they're important to Sew Loka. We see a lot of value in them. So that's the next thing coming up. But I think even more exciting than the fashion show
yeah.
is going to be the San Diego International Airport exhibition for Espacio y Lines in 2024. Can you tell us more, please?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm really fucking excited for that, and I'm very proud of myself for that, because it's huge. We talked about like creating a lane, and just really giving yourself the title that you want people to refer to you as, and it it I'm really proud of myself because I was chosen out of I'm one of 16 people that are going to have basically a solo art show in the San Diego airport. And so there's going to be 16 of us, and each one of us is going to have like a little solo art show scattered around the San Diego airport.
And yours is going to be in Terminal 2.
Terminal 2, which is baggage claim.
Hell yeah.
And so you could go there and you could check it out without having like a boarding pass or anything like that. But I'm really excited about it because, it was a very intense application process, where it's like, it really got me out of like my usual, where it's like I actually had to sketch out. I actually had to, because everything, fabrics and everything is always so intentional with us that writing out what fabric symbolizes what, where we were going to put it. And so with my project, like I really want to blur the seams, and that's the name of the project, where, I'm obviously Mexican American, and
but let's step up for what is
yeah.
the actual exhibition? Like, what is Espacio y Lines in the airport? Like, what
So
is it?
Espacio and Lines is basically going to be an installation that's going to happen for a whole year. So the whole 2024 to January 2024 to January 2025
In the airport.
in the airport for San Diego World Design Capital.
San Diego and Tijuana.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a both.
Yep.
And that's what this art show is kind of representing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so your piece, Blur the Seams,
Yeah.
your art show, Blur the Seams, what is it? How does it relate to the Espacio y Lines?
So basically, I really want to blur like what like a border wall would be. And so for me, it's like a seam, and a seam is basically there's like a line there. And so I want to blur those because I'm Mexican American, and I've always kind of like felt like I was never really like fit into either one, but I've always been good enough for both, you know? So it's like I really want to basically blur those out and basically say like, hey, you know what? Like having like this whole like identity issue where it's like I'm not like 100 freaking like I wasn't born in Mexico and I'm here from like I was born here in the US, but it's like I'm not like, you know, like and like I'm enough for both, but I just don't, you know, you don't fit into either one. Like, you know, whenever I would go back to like Mexico, people would be like, oh, you're like a pocha and, you know, this and that, and, you know, like these comments. And here it's like I'm fucking brown as fuck, so it's like I'm not American enough. So these things that like culturally have like made like this impact, like I want to blur those, you know. And so with this design process, like I really want to blur the seams in like the projects that we're creating, you know. And so it's a really really exciting like opportunity because I'm basically I was given the challenge of actually utilizing like the process of like my work as like an art piece. And so I really want to like delve a little bit more into that because I know I've been saying it a lot, but like everything's so intentional, right? Like the fabric is very like every fabric symbolizes like things with us, and so being able to like really have that as like a as an art piece and talking about those kind of things, I really want that to be part of like an art piece, like that process of like why did we choose this and how are they sewn together and why are these things like this way, you know?
So you'll have in the airport, Terminal 2, you'll have 4 original start to finish Sew Loka pieces on display.
Yeah,
And then you'll also have 2 what we would call process
yeah.
pieces, which are basically 2 individual sections that will show different sketches and tools and
Mm-hmm.
fabrics that you used making those 4
Yeah, and
pieces.
not even not only that, but also, um, you know, like constructed pieces that have already been like built that are not finished, you know, because the rawness and you know the that like more something that's like so raw. There's something so beautiful about that because it's like we don't see that like what you have to understand is like how your clothes is made with basically like they're all guides. Everything in your clothes is like a guide. Everything used to create your clothes, there's a guide to it. So within our sewing studio there's no guides. Basically what it is, it's like it's all like human. All this human is creating the whole entire piece. With mass production of like your regular clothes and all that kind of stuff, what ends up happening is that it's basically there's about, let's say, 10 people, and each person has like you're just hemming like the sleeves, and that's your whole entire job, and there's a whole guide for that. So that's why things look so perfect. So when there's like that rawness in like the clothes and all that kind of stuff, there's something beautiful about it because we expect perfection from our clothes, you know. And we should expect perfection, but we should also like celebrate like the beauty of like something being so raw.
Embrace the humanity behind the clothing.
Exactly. And there is so much humanity behind clothes because it's like most people that create clothes are in other countries that aren't as like developed as our countries or don't have as many opportunities as like the women in our country. So it is one of those things where it's like we should appreciate it more,
100%,
you know?
especially because I'm sure that when they're piecing together the garments in other places, they're not allowed to have that sense of intentionality. They basically just have to follow kind of whatever
Yeah.
they're given.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of breaking that, you know? It's like every piece, all the sewing and everything like that, people are not viewing as an art, but it can be an art.
For
It just
sure.
depends the
Yeah.
intention and the thought and everything behind your decisions. That's what
Yeah.
makes it an art.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. But I'm really excited about that Espacio in Lines because it was like a really amazing feeling to like just basically be like, whoa, like we're putting the title that we want to be referred to as, right? we're like, hey, we're artists, we're designers, we're all these things, right? And we're putting that title on ourselves, and we're not just putting a title, we're actually like delivering
That's what
shit,
I'm saying. You could put a title on
you
yourself.
know?
That's one thing. And I
Yeah.
think that's a necessary step if you want to be something. But then you also have to fucking deliver. You
Yeah.
also actually have to do things that associate with that title to gain
Exactly.
credibility.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
we've been doing that, and so I feel like, just I remember the night before we were having like this deadline for the application and all that kind of stuff, and even the day when it was like deadline is like 12 midnight, we were like so stressed because we were up in LA. We had promised ICE that we were going to do like this meet and greet and all this kind of stuff, and every time we're in LA, like I like to see my family, so it's like it was like this feeling of like we kind of almost have to rush back because we have to finish this application and all this kind of stuff. And so there was a lot of like kind of like, okay, like we're gonna send it off, and like we're sending it off, and like fingers crossed, and you're just kind of like almost like every like thing that you could do, like wear your lucky underwear kind of shit, like you do it like on that day because it's like you're so excited about it. And I remember I kept asking you, I'm like, when do they like let people know?
Dude, we didn't hear from them for 2 months.
Yeah.
So I had already put it on my mind. Like after the first month and a half, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going through that acceptance period of it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Trying to make myself feel better about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was kind of going through that, and then suddenly we received the email that you did get the acceptance, and I was like, oh my god, we fucking were so fucking happy and
Yeah.
celebratory because we're like, oh shit, we had already convinced ourselves that it's not gonna happen, and then you see it, you're like, oh shit, it is happening. That's so fucking cool.
I seriously, like when we sent out the application, I was like, okay, cool, like please, like just make it, let it happen, like let it happen. And I knew in my mind that I was gonna get it. Like I really did know in my mind, only because I was like, how could I like not get it?
Well, we
Like,
could have fucked up something
you
on the
know?
application. Like that's what I was worried about because the application was
Very
you had to have
intense.
everything formatted correctly.
Yeah.
And we had to do some, looking up how to do this and this and this, and we sent it in on time. But you start thinking in your head like, oh my god, did I miss something? Was formatting off in some way? Did I
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
this section? And that only happens like after like a month or so has went by and we haven't heard anything. So we're like, oh shit. You start thinking of like scenarios where we fucked up. And then you just fucking totally give up on it. You're like, all right, next thing. And then
Yeah.
you get this and you're like, oh my God, it's so awesome to get that thing, that notification after you've already put it out of your mind.
Yeah. And I think it was like also really exciting to like obviously get the news and all that kind of stuff, because I'm a fucking hokey motherfucker, right? Like I'm so hokey where it's like I'm very like, why do we stress out if everything always ends up how you like really want it to? And that's obviously easier said than done, because it's like I feel like stress is almost like a motivator, right? Obviously overly stress is like not like a good place where you want to be, but it does motivate you to kind of like push you to basically be like, hey, without pressure there's no diamonds, right? Kind of thing. But I do feel that it was like at the perfect time. Like it always ends up happening at the perfect time, where it's like life always has like this funny way of like balance, and it came at the perfect time and we're like, oh shit, good shit. Like that was like, because it's like we're both like, wow, like you're kind of like in like a little blue moment, and then all of a sudden it's like that happens and you're just kind of like almost like, fuck, thank you, like thank you, I needed that. Like you just feel like so good about it, because it's like what it is to be low. So when something like that happens, then automatically you're just kind of like, whoa, I wasn't meant to be low. Like I'm always constantly meant to like vibe at like a high frequency, but it's like you just have to always remember that you always have to be there. But it's like, but you'll never know how good that feels until you experience the low. So it was the perfect time for it to like basically come into like our email, and we were just kind of like, oh shit. And like I remember you were trying to call me, but like I was like busy like in the studio with like customers and stuff like that. And it was just like, Ice walks in, she's like, Dad's been trying to call you. And I was like, oh shit. Like, and so I checked my phone and I'm like, and then you're like, did you see the email? And I was like, no. And it was like one of those things where we're like, fuck yeah. Like, that is such great news to just kind of like receive, like on a random weekday where you're
Dude,
like,
I was inside 7-Eleven filling up coffee, and I think I fucking shouted like really loud inside the store. I was like, "Oh my god!" And people were like, "What the fuck? Was the coffee that good?" It's never that good, but it was one of the. I think I called you right from the store. I'm like, "Oh my god!" Da, 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 da. People must have thought we were crazy, but sometimes when you're that excited, you just can't hold it in.
yeah,
Because that's just basically it's gonna be up for a whole year.
yeah,
And also it's a level up kind of thing in that it forces and it challenges you to basically sketch it out, design it ahead of time, see where each display is going to be placed. Like this offers a lot of challenges that we don't usually get to challenge ourselves like that with the drops we do and everything like that. This is like saying, hey, like this is the space you have. These are the display cases you have. We want you to set it up. We want you to fill it up, but we're not just going to trust you that you're going to do it. We want to see the receipts before we put it out there. We want to see what's the sketch going to look like? How is this going to look? Why is it going to look this way? Why do you want it to look this way? All these things you have to prove to somebody before you can do it.
yeah.
And I think that is a blessing for us to have.
Yeah,
To go through.
And I don't work that way. So for me, I'm like, oh shit, like, fuck yeah, this is a great fucking challenge, and I'm fucking ready for it, because it's like I am, like, my life is not going to stop leveling up. Like, I'm not fucking slowing down. Like, I have so many fucking goals that, like, I most of the time don't even want to like talk to people about, because it's a little, they're kind of scary, but this is like one of those kind of things where I'm like, this is amazing, because I've never done this before. I don't work in like, oh, let me sketch it out before, and I was completely honest with the guy curating the show. I was like, I don't work that way. This is the way that I work, and I'm really excited to work in that way, because I really want to show you that I could do it. And for me, like, that's been like my life, it's like, I'll show you that I could fucking do it. And it's like, and I'll do whatever I have to do in order to make it look really, really well, and like something that like I'm really proud of, because this is a great opportunity. This is such a great opportunity for me as like a person, as an artist, as like a representation of like my community, whatever that is, the people that surround me, the people that are inspired by me. Like, this is it's not just an opportunity for me, it's an opportunity for all of us, because guess what, like, we don't fucking gatekeep shit. We are constantly like, how I got there? It's by doing all this fucking shit, and it's a lot of fucking hard shit, and it's a lot of like constant, like, you have to show up for yourself when no one's fucking showing up for you. You gotta believe in like this crazy dream. This is a crazy dream. This is crazy. This is sewing. Like, this is fucking sewing. Like, I fucking sew as an art, and like, I've had all these amazing opportunities. So it's like, if you want to sit on the couch and you want to say, oh, I can't do it, like, you're not motivated enough, because it's like, how the fuck has this happened?
This little sewing shop.
It's sewing.
People laughed at us.
People still laugh at us.
People still laugh at us.
And it's okay.
It will never stop, but it's fine.
But
we love that shit.
This is the thing where it's like, being able to like have these amazing opportunities to where it's like, for people to actually believe in this idea of what we're creating, because we're not just an idea of like, this is just us. It's like, this is an idea of like a whole group of people, because it's like, we're constantly with like the events, we're like, all right, cool, we're gonna have this event, and we're also gonna showcase 30 other people, and we're also gonna showcase all these other people, and we're also gonna, so it's like, it's not just this idea of just us. It's the idea that it's all of us.
And to me, it's believing in yourself. because
Exactly.
you believe so highly in yourself that I think it's infectious for others as well. It's like, oh shit, this is where it all starts. It just starts in that crazy belief that you can do something that nobody else thinks you can do.
Yeah, because it's like, think about it. Like, I think this was like a conversation that I've had like a few times with a few people, right? And just recently with like, people that you're like, oh shit, like that you're also, that they do really cool shit on Instagram, and that, you know, almost from the outside looking in, you would think like, they don't really have a right to even say that. I thought if everything was like dandy. But it is one of those things where it's like, the hustle is real. The hustle is fucking real. Like, you could be talented as fuck, but the hustle is real. You have to hustle it. You have to 110% hustle it every fucking single day, because that's what it is. everything
Yeah.
else is like everything else is like a really cool like picture for Instagram, but the hustle, that there has to be the hustle. And it is choosing, like, it's like you could totally have like a 9 to 5, like cool, like have a 9 to 5 and all that kind of stuff, but it's like you're gonna be miserable there. And don't get me wrong, you're gonna be miserable even where I'm at, because guess what, it's not perfect all the time, and there's gonna be moments where you're like, shit, this is fucking hard as fuck, and how do I get through it? But I fucking, there is nothing that I would trade for these experiences, because guess what, it's like you're building something.
Yeah, but you definitely have hustle, Claudia. You have
Yeah.
hustle. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of people, because damn, I know a lot of fucking talented people. I see a lot of talented people, and they don't have your hustle. And it's like, yes, they can hustle, but it's like they'd rather hustle for their job than hustle for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's like there's tons of talented people. Oh my God, I see them every day. 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 But I don't see them with your type of hustle. And it's like, if you want the secret, it's like believing in yourself and hustling to make sure that belief becomes a reality.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could be talented is, I think a lot of people are talented.
Yeah,
There's a
for
lot
sure.
of unfulfilled talent, people that are talented just with unfulfilled potential and wasted potential. And I think that's the saddest thing in the world, is the wasted potential. And it's like, talent is not enough. If you're out there and you're talented and everything, I'm just telling you, it's not enough. That's just
Yeah.
my PSA for the day. Because if you ain't hustling, then what's the point? What's the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But you're willing to hustle for the bar that you work at. They expect you to hustle. If you ain't
Yeah.
gonna hustle, you're fired. But you won't put in that same hustle for yourself.
Exactly. So,
But
yeah.
I'm just my PSA of what I've observed
Yeah.
with just people,
Yeah.
which I love.
Yeah.
But it's just observations.
Yeah.
And so I think that brings me to, you mentioned earlier that you have certain goals that you'd be embarrassed to share.
Yeah.
Can you share one of those embarrassing ass goals right now, just so you can get a little red in the face, a little sweaty, and we can be entertained?
Wow. That's so fucked up. Um I don't know. There's a lot. I want to I'm going to be like worldwide. Like, I know I am. Like, I know
What's
that
worldwide?
like just be known like worldwide.
Like Pitbull?
Better. Like, I'm sorry, Pitbull, but but I really want I want to be there, where it's like, and I know that I'm there's no like, you just skip through like so much stuff, right? Because it's like, I know my journey is real. Like, I know for sure my journey is real, because this journey is like already insane. So for me, I'm like, oh shit, like I know the journey is real, and it's like, I know if I look back like a year, like I know where I was, and then if I look back a year before then, I know where I was. So it's like, it's always been like that, like that, freaking just moving up and moving up. And so it's like, for me, like, it's like I know that I will get there because I put in all the work. Like, I'm not, I enjoy sleeping in. That's my toxic trait, that it's like I really enjoy my sleep, but it's like I know that, like, I will do what it takes to get there, and doing what it takes means obviously having integrity in the things that I want to freaking accomplish, making sure that everything that I do is with like really, really good intentions, and also moving it in ways where it's like I don't fucking step on people. I know that that's why I will be where I need to be, because those are always my intentions, and so that's where it's like I know that it's a matter of time for me to get to like the places that I need to get there, where I'm going to feel like I'm like, oh shit, like I'm not in survival mode anymore. Like I'm on like, dude, like this is like some real fucking shit, and I know that with that comes a lot of, kind of like really closing myself off to like a lot of things. And I think that that's one of the things, because it's like I like people a lot, and so it makes it really hard for me to just kind of like know that that's going to be one of the things that will happen, but it's also one of those things for like my own kind of um you know like feeling of like security and all that kind of stuff that I have to do. But it's like I do want to be like a worldwide brand.
But how do you stay slow fashion and be worldwide at the same time? I mean, that's the conundrum. Like, how do you
Yeah.
keep that brand going to where it's like everything's slow fashion, but you're still able to have a big reach? Because I think
Yeah.
that's
And I
the
think that that's been like one of the things, right, where it's like our business is not like retail in the way where it's like it's regular retail. We're not flipping shit. So it's like it makes it really hard for us to basically have like a model that we could copy, because our there isn't a model like ours that we could just be like, let's just copy that. And that's usually like with like a retail, like you could find any kind of like, I'm sure if you went on Pinterest you could Google like how to fucking run a retail store or some bullshit. There's shit that you could like obviously like look up and have like an idea, or get a mentor for like owning a retail space or retail you business or whatever. But this is like so new, because it's like obviously I make everything, and then it's made out of like recycled, repurposed, and reclaimed fabrics to top it off. So it's not like if we could even mass produce things, because everything's like basically either dead stock fabric, recycled goods, or things in that kind of nature. So it makes it really difficult to like just mass produce. But I do think that we're kind of like in the growing pains of like, oh shit, like we're growing. And with growing pains there has to be like, you have to add more people to the team, people that you're gonna be that you could rely on, that could help with like the more minimal tasks that like could free you to basically like do other shit. Like I want to, I love sewing. I want to do all the, you know the very like intricate like one of one stuff. Like that's what I want to do. And I want to teach. I want to basically like go out, teach, do all that kind of stuff, and then like sew all the fun projects. I want someone else to sew all the other stuff for me.
no, and I think there's a way in the future, and we're trying to figure this out. Like you said, what is our business model? What
Yeah.
is a sustainable business model going forward? Where it's like Claudia doesn't have to just be in the sewing studio till late night sewing everything. We have a busy weekend. Oh my God, we got to sew more. And I think in the future, we're trying to figure out how to market ourselves as more of in line with a tattoo studio, right? Than a clothing store.
Yeah.
Whereas people can come to you for something, they might have something in mind, just like you come to a tattoo artist, but say they want a jacket instead. But they know your style, they know what you're good at, but they can come to you, kind of describe what they want, and then let you have the creative freedom to make them a one of one, just
Yeah.
like somebody would make a tattoo.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's at that tattoo price range as well,
Yeah.
where you're basically constantly booked up through that, and that is a way of you not having to make everything ahead of time like a retail, whereas somebody comes to you, they've already put down the price for it, and then you make it, where there's more of that. And there is also more of the Sew Loka school and workshops, like the Sewing Skills 101 that we could
Yeah.
also do at the shop,
Yeah.
so there's that. And where retail doesn't, in my mind, retail doesn't become like the biggest part of it. Like, oh, we're just a clothing store that just opens up our door and just waits for people to come and buy stuff. Like, to me, that's just, it's a very antiquated business model. And it's like, I think we could do way more than just that.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
innovate with the business model, how the different revenue streams and everything like that. So I think over these next few months, like, that's something that we're going to be, you're going to be teaching at different
Yeah.
schools, you know, building a
Yeah.
curriculum and everything like that. And hopefully we could bring that in the future to Sew Loka,
Yeah.
you know, so students can sign up through Sew Loka and have this sewing skills 101 curriculum through us,
Yeah.
you know, and then also people can book you up for these custom one of one clothings, you know, like kind of like I said, like a tattoo artist,
Yeah.
you know, so we wouldn't be so dependent on, oh, let's open up our doors and just hopefully foot traffic is coming by and hopefully people buy things and everything like that. Like, to me, like I said, it just feels like it's an old school business model.
Yeah, for sure. I feel the same way.
So what's the next part of the conversation?
So, we're talking about goals,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and like what we wanted to basically, you know, some of the goals that we had. So, did you want to share one of yours?
Well, I did. I mean, I did. I just shared that basically the business model thing is a big thing that we're trying to work on to basically over these next few months promote, like, build your own jacket and stuff like that, and also build the curriculum for the sewing schools. Like, those are two big things that are on my mind of, okay, like, how do we, this sewing skills 101, like, how do we offer these workshops to people that, you know, that are into thrifting, that are into slow fashion, like, you could tell, like, the younger generation, they're into that. They see that as cool. They don't see a stigma around it. But what we're saying is, okay, yeah, you're flipping thrifted clothing. That's cool. Like, you got an eye. But if you learn sewing, that literally can separate you from the rest of the crowd. If you learn just a little bit of sewing skills, you could take that thrifted clothing, you can rework it in your own way, put some artistry behind it, put a little bit of you in it, and then it's just not something that you're flipping. You're not like, oh, I found this pair of pants at Amvets for $4. I'm gonna flip it for $25. You know, yes, there is value in that. That's super cool. Like, you know, in the secondhand fashion, everything like that. But my God, what if you had this extra superpower of sewing and you could add a patch to it or you could rework it in some way?
Today on Lokas in the Wild, we are trying to find a Loka in her natural habitat. Oh my God, I think I've spotted one in an independently owned coffee shop. Oh, cranky! It seems like there's two Lokas in the wild. A very rare sight indeed. The edginess is killing me. Let's follow them and see where they're headed. See how they're walking. So confident. Independent women. I'm going to try and approach them. Keep in mind that they are being protected by that pack of birds. Don't try this at home. Next time you see a Sew Loka in the wild, make sure you give them a good hot cup of coffee and say hello. Loka! I want to take a vacation.
Is that your goal?
Yeah.
Where do you want to take a vacation?
I don't know. Somewhere, I think we talked about it yesterday, and it kind of like showed our like personalities, you know, where we were like, you were like, no, I want like something a little bit louder. And, you know, because I was like, oh, I would love to just kind of like get away. And it doesn't even have to be anywhere like exotic for me. Like I just need for it to be quiet. Like I need not to be like in this feeling of like that I'm constantly like at the beck and call of time. I want to be able to be basically like wake up when I want to wake up, you know, wake up and like make a breakfast, you know, freaking hang out, watch something if I want to watch something, go for a walk if I want to, like just things like that. Like I want to be able to do like just the most basic things for like 2 days. That's all I want. That's
Done.
a vacation for me.
Done and done.
You know, and I could seriously like if I could just go somewhere like nearby, like I'm down with that too. I just need like to quiet my mind. I feel like that would be like a good vacation for me.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I totally
Yeah.
get that. And that can be done.
Yeah.
We can do that.
That's the goal.
We can do that.
That's the
And we will
goal.
do that.
Yeah, that's the goal.
But it was interestingly enough, we were talking yesterday how we have different opinions of what is peaceful.
Yeah.
What is a peaceful vacation?
What is a peaceful vacation?
In your
for you?
mind, a peaceful vacation is like Palm Springs, right? Like a desert.
Well, yeah, like anywhere where it's like I just more naturey. Like I would love, like how when we were in Portland and we did like the nature walk and all that kind of stuff. Like I would love to just like go to like a cabin and like just be there and like just in solitude because I have a lot of interactions with people all the time. So it's like I want to be able to not feel like I have to have interactions, that I could just kind of like just be there and just be quiet and it's fine, you know?
Yeah. To me, it sounds way stressful. Like that much peace is so stressful. So stressful.
But it's good because it's like you have to also understand that it's like I'm constantly in my head because sewing is very meditative. When you sew, the only things that are in your mind are those things that are fucking like that torture your mind constantly. So what are the thoughts that are constantly in your mind right now? Just think about those, and every time you sew, those thoughts are constantly there. So
damn, every time you sew?
Every time that I sew. So if there's things that are bothering me, like if there's like things that I'm stressed out about, those they always come to the top when I sew because sewing's meditative. It's in the moment. So it's like you're just kind of like, okay, and those are the thoughts that are just kind of like always there. So it's like you have to deal with them in order to move on. So it's like it's a good thing to have them there because you're not constantly pushing them aside. You have to deal with them and move on.
But say you're on this super, super quiet, isolated vacation.
Yeah.
What's stopping your mind from thinking about those things during those quiet moments?
They don't come when it's
How?
like that.
Only when you're sewing.
I think only when I'm in a meditative state like that. Yeah. Because so when it's quiet and all that kind of stuff, like it's almost like my mind gets like distracted with this other thing of like, oh, you have to make like a meal. And so it's like I'm making like a meal, or oh, you have to read this book. And so then I'm like, I'm reading this book.
Does your mind talk to you like that?
Yeah.
It says, Claudia, read this book.
No, it says read this book.
Oh my God. It's very formal how your mind kind of just gives you instructions.
I have to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does
because
your
I'm
mind...
very easily distracted.
But does your mind speak to you in your voice or does it have its own voice? Like your subconscious, like do you hear it?
I don't think there's like a voice. There's a list.
A list?
There's a list. It's like a list and in like it forms and like it just forms like that and then you have to put it on paper like a to-do.
A to-do
it's
list.
A to-do. Yeah, it's like a task like list. Yeah. Every time that I go into this studio, there has to, if I'm in there and there's like no list in my mind, like I will not get anything done.
But I would say that the one thing that makes me scared about the peaceful thing is that same thing, is that it's so peaceful that you have nothing else to kind of, I guess, stimulate or distract your brain, that I guess all those thoughts or whatever that maybe you were suppressing, whatever, they come bubbling up to your brain, in these kind of very peaceful, isolated environments. Whereas a city or a place where you're just like constantly surrounded by all these people you don't know, maybe distracted, but then you also have these little bursts of interactions. Like they're short, but you have these, you're talking to somebody for a few minutes, boom, you're done. You're on.
You
to
don't
the next
even
thing.
like talking to people.
Short interactions. I love high energy, very short interactions. Like you're walking down the street, you see somebody trip. Oh my God, sir. Oh my God. Okay, yeah. Let me help you up. Oh my, you're good. You're good. Oh shit. Let's go into the store. Let me help you get something. I'll talk to the store person. And it's like one person to the other. It's very short, but it's helpful. I helped the person up. I maybe bought him a drink, and then I move on. But it gets weird if it lasts too long. I need short, very high energy interactions, and I get that a lot in cities. Things are too quiet. Things are this and that. Oh my god! You feel like there's
Well,
like
yeah.
a horror movie waiting to happen.
Well, yeah, like the transition from when we lived to downtown to like now where we live, downtown, during the summer, our windows were always open. We were like on the second floor. You heard noise all the time, all the time, all the time, like, because we lived right in front of the trolley. So the trolley only took, I think it was like 45 minutes like of a break at night. And then it would constantly, you would hear the beep, 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 like beeping,
Yeah.
of like the trolley. And so now living here, like I always tell you, I'm like, it's too quiet. And then like, I'll have to like turn on the dryer or something like that. Or, there has to be like some kind of like noise for me to kind of like fall asleep. But I was so comforted by like the noise, before that, like now it's like when there's no noise, I'm like, oh shit.
See,
like you could hear everything.
But then you want your ideal vacation is a place with no noise. This is
No,
why you're
I
a hard
said,
person to figure out.
no. I said my ideal vacation is somewhere where I'm not I'm not enslaved to time. I don't want to be I'm constantly like, everything is time. Like everything is time. Like, it's like today I have like 2 meetings. One of them is at this time. The other one's at this time. I have to make those times. And then the whole, my day is based around those times. I don't want to feel that. I want to go somewhere where it's like, what do you want to do? I don't know. We'll just play it by ear.
So a vacation to you is no deadlines.
No deadlines.
No deadlines.
That sounds
So that makes sense. But
like just going somewhere and basically being like, hey, you know what? Like, obviously like planning it out in advance where it's like, hey, we're going to stay at this place and it's by this fucking coffee shop, and there's like a fucking like a movie store, I don't know. And there's things.
Yeah, things.
And we could basically be like, hey, tomorrow do you want to wake up and do you want to go get some coffee? And then after coffee we could just kind of like walk around, and like there's no like, but at like 12 I have to fucking, there's none of that. Like it's more like, hey, you know what? Like, are you hungry now? Like we could make something to eat, and we could sit outside and you could do, all those things, like, where it doesn't feel like it's like this constant, like, we have to do it now because if it gets too late, it's going to be, it's like, that's my life every fucking day. It's like, I don't want that. Like, I want to basically be able to, like, just go somewhere and just kind of basically be like, I don't want to fucking do shit. And it's expected. So that's...
People could be calling and you would never even know.
And I would be like...
They could be texting.
Sorry.
You never even know.
But it's like, I think that's one of the things that I would like to do, like, more like, December, because it's like, I feel like now, obviously, like, today was Ice's first day of school, and so it's like, it's her first day of middle school, so it's like, where our schedules are changing so much, because it's like, we now have a middle schooler, and middle school is like a very, very crucial part of your life, where it's like there's a lot of like identity like happening, you're building your identity, you don't know who you are, you don't know, like there's so much happening during that time. So it's like we want to be, obviously, like, be more hands on and basically be there more for what we don't know what to expect, and it's just like a very interesting time of like people trying to figure out, like, she's probably going to try to test like the boundaries and things like that. So it's like, this is our time to kind of, like, we have to, anytime the school year starts, we have to reevaluate our schedules and kind of fix them to her. So that's...
But she'll do fine in middle school.
She'll be fine.
She knows we got her back, but she knows we also got the teacher's back.
Exactly.
Don't fuck with the teacher.
Don't fuck with the teacher.
We ain't got your side over the fucking teacher's side. We ain't one of those fucking parents. It's like, don't fuck with the teacher.
Yeah, don't disrespect the teacher.
Don't disrespect the teacher, and don't fucking cause no trouble on campus.
Exactly.
But also, just be assertive.
Yeah.
Stand up for yourself. Speak your mind. Don't let nobody push you around, because people will try. This is the breeding ground, middle school. Oh my God, it will define the rest of your life. So it's like, hey, you got parents that always got your back.
Yeah.
Use that as some confidence, and don't let people push you around, and don't ever withhold your vocal cords out of fear. Just fucking speak up, speak up, speak
Yeah.
up, speak up.
I was a very shy kid.
Exactly. Me too. Me too.
Like,
So it's like, yeah,
very shy.
and middle school can be terrible for shy kids.
Yeah. Well, it was so interesting because we like went to go drop her off. I think it was like an hour ago. And you were like, what the fuck? And so I went to like a middle school that probably had that many kids. And so my middle school, there was a lot of kids. And you have to also understand that like we were in middle school, like, I mean, that was a long time ago. And kids weren't that nice back then. Kids weren't as understanding as they are now, you know, and it is one of those kind of things where it's like kids are more understanding now. There's more consequences now to like certain things and all that. And so, you know, your middle school experience was totally different than mine, but you know, we both did well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I just, I that was a lot of kids. I was like, damn, that's middle school. Like, that's a way different than the elementary school. Like, there's way more kids
yeah.
here.
Well,
And like some of the kids, like in 8th grade, look like already they're high schoolers, and you know, and Ice comes in and she's kind of got like her animation backpack and stuff, and I'm just like, I felt like this nervousness in the pit of my stomach, like, oh my god, are we sending her into the lions here? Like I don't want. I'm so afraid of her innocence being lost. You know, like she still loves cartoons. She's into animation and everything. Like, I don't. It's so scary that kids can rip that away from you just by making you feel bad about that. You know, liking those little things that maybe some people call nerdy, but obviously she loves. And it's like, I just know that if you're not careful, middle schoolers can make you feel terrible about everything that you love, and then you'll
yeah.
stop loving it.
I know. I was a middle schooler. Like, look, when I went to middle school, I had this like a camel backpack that I got in TJ. That was the last time I went to TJ when I was like 12 years old. And they were selling like these really cool backpacks, so I got like a backpack, and it was like a black and white camo backpack. And I used to love shopping at like this place called Red Zone, and it was like more of like a expensive like Hot Topic, where it's like it was more like adult kind of like stuff. And so I used to love going in there, and they would have patches and all that kind of stuff, so I would buy all kinds of like patches. And my parents, since they didn't speak English, I could get away with buying all the fucking patches that said all the bad words or all that kind of stuff. And so I had different types of patches for my backpack, and I sewed them and all that kind of stuff. And I was always a weird kid. I was having this conversation with her last night because she's like, pray for me, Mom, pray for me.
Oh,
and I
damn.
was like, I'm like, what are you so worried about? I'm like, fuck these kids. Are you kidding me? I'm like, look, I'm like, everyone in middle school is going through the same exact battle. Everyone is. Everyone is trying to like figure themselves out and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, stay true to yourself now. Don't try to change yourself and mold yourself into like what people want you to be. I'm like, because it's not fun. It's not like a great place. You know, it's like, stay true to what you like and who you are. And people there, regardless if you have a fucking weird backpack, or if you have a weird this, or if you have a weird that, people are always going to find a reason to make fun of you. And that's only because it's a reflection of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's more to do with who they are, you know?
And just showing her that basically the first word that you ever embroidered for your clothing brand on a shirt was the
Yeah.
word freak.
Yeah.
You basically wrote the word freak, embroidered it across your shirt, and that was the first thing you ever created. So
Yeah.
they could call you freak all they want, but it's like that freak created their own clothing brand, and they're
Yeah.
fucking living a creative life, while there's the other people are probably not. Anybody that fucking bullies somebody like that is probably living a
Yeah.
pretty sad life right
And
now.
like,
Let's be honest.
I mean, my middle school was pretty freaking. I went to school in like the hood, you know, like I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, and you know, it was a very like there we had to wear uniforms because there was already a lot of kids that were involved in gangs at that time. And so we had to wear uniforms for that purpose, because it's like, you know, they could you could kind of tell that these kids weren't in gangs or whatever, but it was the same color as the gang. So you're like, I don't understand this, but we all wore uniforms and all that kind of stuff. But it was a very different time back then, because it's like more girls. I remember one of the girls in my 8th grade class was pregnant when I was in 8th grade. And so you're in middle school, and she's going into, we were both going into high school, and she was about to give birth to like a baby. So we were at a different time. Now it's a different time where it's like people are more accepting, people are, there's different things like that. So I'm, she's a bright kid, she's a smart kid, she's got a lot of fucking shit going for her, and she'll do good.
Yeah.
Plus it's like she'll be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody goes through their shit.
Yeah.
And then they fucking say later on when they're successful, they're like, that's what made me who I am.
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to protect her from everything, but there is that knot in your stomach when you, like, at least when I went to the middle school campus today for the first time and saw all those kids, I'm like, I got transported back to fucking 6th grade.
But you only had
And
how
I was
many
like,
kids in your class?
I had 16. It was,
Okay.
it was like it was a private school, but it's still, just because there wasn't a lot, just because there was less kids, still those kids could be pretty judgy.
No, I know. Yeah.
In their own different ways.
So fucking, have you seen our fucking cat? That motherfucker's judgmental as fuck.
Exactly.
Yesterday I was cleaning and he gave me this look like, huh, you finally clean? So
you finally fucking clean my litter box?
He's like this. He's like, you finally clean? But I think, look, she'll be fine. It's like, and I was telling her, because she's like, I don't have any of my friends or any in my classes or anything like that. And I'm like, if you could already start to get out of your comfort zone and to walk into rooms where you're not going to have friends, and you could right away make friends with people, you're ahead of the game.
Big time ahead of the game.
You're ahead of the game. And I've experienced that. I got kicked out of high school. I had to go to a different high school, and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone in this high school. And, I remember at that time I was journaling a lot. So I would write in like a journal, and I didn't know anyone. So it's like I show up to school, and obviously I took my journal, and for like nutrition and like lunch, it's like 20 minutes for like breakfast or whatever. So it's like I would seriously just sit in a bench and just fucking, because I didn't know anyone, I would just sit in like whatever bench I could find, and I would just open up my notebook and I would just write everything that like I felt, everything that like, and it was almost like a feeling that was like, it felt good to know that I didn't have to socialize with people to validate myself, and then I would do that. Like I think I did that for like maybe like a few days. And I had a girlfriend in like one of my PE classes. She was like really like kind of like goofy, and like she was just like super hyper, like super hyper. And I think she was like in 9th grade, and I was like in 11th grade, and she was like, and like, we kind of vibed because kind of like we had like similar styles or whatever. And she's like, where do you hang out? And I had found like this area like in behind like these buildings, and there was like grass, and there was like a few trees and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I hang out behind like that building, like there's like, and she's like, can I go hang out with you? And I was like, yeah. And then like another girlfriend that like, she was like, where do you hang out like for lunch? And I was like, oh, I hang out over here. And she's like, can I go hang out over there? And I was like, yeah. And by the end of it, like there was so many outcasts of like so many different like little groups, and it looked like one of my girlfriends was like Muslim Pakistani. One of my girlfriends was like a drummer for like a fucking hardcore punk band. One of my other girlfriends was like a freaking like a newbie fucking 9th grader. And then we had like random, like we had 2 kids that like had just moved from like TJ to like the area, and we were just kind of like, we all were loners and we found each other, but it was we all like hung out and we had a really good time, and it was one of those things where it's like, you just have to stay true to who you are, and people that are the same as you gravitate towards
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I was telling her that, I was like, I'm like, you'll be fine. I'm like, life, I'm like, and I was telling her, I'm like, when we have events, when we have to go somewhere and there's like an event or whatever, I'm like, there's never someone that I'm like, I know this person and I could just kind of hang out with them. I'm like, that's not life. Life is about like, yes, you know someone there, but you want to get to know all these other people, you know. And it's like, and it is about getting to know other people, because it's like, they're not going to be your best friends, but they're going to be your friends, you know. And you just want to basically be able to create friendships with people, you know. And she was like, okay. I'm like, but it never ends. Every, you know, it's like, how did you do it at camp? At camp, every time she had a camp, it was new peeps all the time. So
Mm-hmm. You just basically have to go up to them. Hey, I'm Ice. Nice to meet
yeah,
you. That's it.
yeah,
Hey, I'm Ice. Nice to meet you. Just a
yeah,
little introduction, and the more you do of those, the easier it gets, and then you're almost just a pro.
yeah,
You know, but you don't have to get rid of your introvertedness. You know, I
yeah,
think all of us are natural introverts where we need that alone time. But like you said, trick your brain, force yourself. Like, I need this social interaction, because if I don't, I can become very almost too shelled away,
yeah,
too frightened of everything, too oh my god, you know. So it's like, you know yourself, like you have to
yeah.
balance it out with social interaction and
and
talking.
and also too, like, I feel like we're obviously like business owners, entrepreneurs, artists, all that kind of stuff, but we're parents. And so it's like, this is like another role that we're like, oh shit, especially the middle school role, we're like, whoa, this is kind of like, you know, like different, because it's like she's been in elementary school for like the past few years. So now we're like, oh my God, middle school and all this kind of stuff. But we do have expectations for her for middle school, and we did talk to her about more responsibility that comes with middle school, because we do want her to join clubs, we do want her to do after school stuff. Like, we want for her to understand that when she joins a club, she's meeting people that are also like-minded like her, and that's where she'll find her group,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so, as like a parent, that, like, you know, my parents weren't like that. My parents were just kind of like, cool, you're doing like the bare minimum in school, like that's great, just keep going. We have to, everyone has a job, you do your job, we do our job, and cool, you know. And so for us, it's like we get to be really hands on, because it's like we know what that role was as like the middle schooler and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, like, obviously pushing her is going to get her out of her comfort zone, and she's only going to grow from that. So it's like, that's the fun thing, and a fun role about like parenting,
Exactly.
you
It's
know.
hard.
So it
That's
is,
probably the
yeah,
scariest thing out of what you listed. A bunch of other things we were, but the parenting thing is definitely like the most nerve wracking, because you don't want to ever do anything that puts that is a you don't want to ever be a liability to your kid. You want to only be an asset. Like, we want to
yeah,
only do things that help them.
yeah,
You know, so you really have to just be conscious of all of your actions at all times, because I don't want to ever be a liability.
yeah.
You know.
And I think she's very, you know, I know, like, we've always kind of, like, I know she's always been like daddy's girl, like big time daddy's girl, and she has like this, you know, this relationship with you where she, you know, she needs you for certain things, and she'll go to you for those kind of things. Now she's coming to me for certain things, you know, where she's like, oh damn, like my mom, like girl stuff, you know, stuff where she kind of wants to push the envelope, she comes to me for, you know. And she'll be like, can you talk to dad about this? And I'm like, oh my God. And so, you know, it really has to, you know, because I feel like she sees me as like a friend, you know, where she's like, oh. And you know, she'll say like certain things, and I'm like, you know, you also have to keep in mind that it's like, well, you know, me and dad, we have to talk about these kind of things. And she's like, I know, you know. But she is at that point where she wants to push certain things and
Mm-hmm.
do that kind of stuff. But it's it's natural, and it's, you know, we're very like open with her. I feel like, you know, I never had a relationship with my mom where it's like I could have conversations with her, especially difficult conversations, or I could ask her about like anything, because it's like we just didn't have a relationship like that. So it's like for me to have a relationship with her like that is like obviously like it's good. It makes me
Yeah.
feel good because it's like, she knows that she could come to me and she could ask me certain things and she feels comfortable and all that kind of stuff, and I like that cuz it's like I feel like moms are always going to, you know, like be there.
And there's a lot of little things that we can't control, like little
Yeah.
things along the way that we're going to have to deal with. Every kid goes through it, but what we can control is we can make sure that Ice always says that her parents were there for her. Her parents
Yeah.
were a part of her life. Her parents were involved. You know what I mean? We never just gave up on our responsibility to our kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing that I know, that when she gets to be an older and she starts getting a relationship of her own and all that stuff, that she'll look back and be like, my dad was there for me. My
Yeah.
dad was always fucking there.
Yeah.
Always fucking there. That's not something that's a box that's going to be checked. So yeah, there's a lot of little things I haven't figured out along the way, but I know for sure, I'm going to be that dad that my child is going to be fucking always glowing about me because I was always fucking there for her.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that helps a child in their development and that will help her have a happy life.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to
Especially
give to her
girls.
more than anything. Exactly. Just to be like, my dad is a fucking solid ass fucking dad.
Yeah.
Solid ass dad.
Because it's like, it's like it's so important for there to it's so important to have like a father figure in your life as a woman, and it's like my dad was there, but my dad wasn't emotionally like available. He was just kind of like think about my dad as like the fucking water cooler. It's there, but it doesn't do anything. It's just there. So it's like it's great that it's there, but it's like what about like the emotional development that comes with like parenting like a teen girl? Like there has to be, like, you can't just step in when you have to scold people. Like you also have to be there to like nurture, to like to give that nurturing, love, but also to also be like, hey, you don't do fucking shit like that either. And I think it's like so important to basically be able to have like a father, especially as a young girl, because it shows you that there's an example of what a man should be in your life, and we don't know what kind of like, what she would like to date or any of that kind of stuff, but it's also it's good to basically be able to see the family dynamic of how relationships are respected. So it's like those are things that like she will have, and it's good to for her to be able to like witness having like a father figure in the house, and those kind of things, because those things are really really important.
And it's good to know that she knows that her parents have her back, so she doesn't have to look for that someplace else.
Yeah.
That she has to feel like she has to get validation from somebody else who's going to have her back. You know what? Your two parents have your back. You don't need anybody else to fill that role.
Exactly.
We have that.
Exactly. Because I struggled with that for a really long time, because my dad wasn't like this person that, like I said, was there, or you could have a conversation with them, or this or that, or any of that kind of stuff. So it's like I looked for that kind of feeling and emotion and everything in other places.
Exactly.
And so for me, it's like it wasn't about like, it was just a lot of like misguided energy into something else. And for me, that's where it's like, that's why I'm always like, when you have a problem, when good shit happens, when you just want to talk, when you want to vent to someone, vent to your mom. Because guess what, everyone else has like a totally different kind of like
agenda
with what you say, what you do, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, your mom is always gonna want the best for you. Your parents are always gonna want the best for you. So it's like, I always tell her those kind of things. I'm like, seriously, like, if anything, your parents are always here to try to help you solve problems. you know? So it's like, just look at your parents as like these people that are always going to be there to try to help.
100%.
You know,
and I think
so
that's a good way to kind of end today's episode. You want to see how many minutes we're at?
yeah.
Damn. 1 hour and 40 minutes?
Wow.
We almost did like a double episode. I honestly didn't think we'd pass an hour, but that's great.
Yeah.
So more of these, more consistently going forward.
Yeah. We got the keys. We came in. We painted everything. We worked really hard. We worked 16-hour days, and we said, hey, you know what? We're going to make this the best thing that we've ever had. You know, so that's how we came to be at Sew Loka.
All right, Claudia. All right, peeps. We love you. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah. Mic drop. Hey, kids. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Skills Pay Bills. If you're interested in being one of our guests or have a comment, drop it below. We want to hear what you think. Hasta luego.